Hello everyone, I'm Mike from the Masters of the Code, and in today's video we will continue the whole setup from the previous video, and we will configure for the start the Apache plus MySQL servers in Docker to provide some basic services for other containers, which I will show you in the next videos. So we will need Linux-based system with Docker installed, so either the NAS device or other Linux server. Also, you can use Linux under virtual machine, like for example VirtualBox, and of course Docker pre-configured with working network settings ready to create and run containers. And that second part is really easy. You just need to install Docker package and set it up for startup with system boot. Also, what you will get after configuration is the setup one configuration file, whole container creation automized. So you will just need to tinker with one configuration file and the scripts will do the rest. Also pre-configured container with MySQL, pre-configured container with Apache, which will work as HTTPS server and also HTTPS proxy. So you will get possibility to encapsulate ordinary HTTP traffic inside HTTPS, which is important for services which can be configured for SSL, so they lack the SSL, so you can't do that in the native way, and with that approach you are able to get it encapsulated inside SSL. So it's really convenient to use it outside your LAN network without VPN, for example. And also you will get pre-configured phpMyAdmin and Roundcube clients, so prepared for future use. And I will show you in the next video how it works when we will also configure a postfix container. And the most important thing, you will get knowledge about customizing those containers to your needs. As always, remember to subscribe my channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss my future videos. Also check links below that video where I will give you script and configuration needed for today's video. And also I will give you other useful links and also links for devices I use. So let's get started. First, we will need to open some links. I will log into my virtual DSM administration panel first. And also I will open control panel and the users tab and file station. So we will be able to look at the changes made by those scripts. And also I've prepared the Apache tab, so it's for HTTP and also for HTTPS. Of course it is not working because we don't have the container started. So it's prepared. Let's take a look also at the console. We will log into my virtual DSM, switch to root account, and we will enter directory with configuration scripts. So it's docker_conf_gen. You have the link for those resources below the video, and we can take a look at the parent directory structure. And as you can see, you have the main configuration file here, so it's config.inc. Also you have some helper functions for bash here. It's inside the helper.inc. Those files are included by other scripts with sh extension here. And also for every container you have the same template. So you have that Apache _template directory, MySQL _template directory. Also you have two scripts for configuring containers, so it's always docker_, and of course here you have Apache and MySQL also. And you have also script for preparing users, so it's users_cfg.sh. And also you have script for initializing whole environment, so it's create_env.sh. And for easy cleaning the whole environment, it's clean_all.sh. First, let's take a look at that config file. First, we have the check for the Synology NAS. So if we are using that script under Synology, there will be some additional tools like syno_user command, for example. So if it exists, the is_syno variable will have the 0 value here, and in the other cases it should have 1 here. So it's important because on the Synology you don't have the usual Linux commands like user add, group add, but instead you have proprietary commands like syno_user, syno_group, and other commands for taking care of, for example, ACLs also. So we are checking it here. Next, we have some basic variables. So you have the env variable. You can configure the prefix for the directories and for the container names here. So it's important if you want to have more environments, separate environments. So for example, you can name it PRD, you can name it dev, you can name it development, or you can put here name, anything you want. So you will get separate environment configured. And also next variable is for shifting port values. So for example, if you put 0 here for the main environment, you will have the 8080 port for Apache. And if you will put some other value here, like 10,000 for example, then you will get one 8080 port for Apache, and also you will get one 443 port, for example, for SSL, and etc. for other services. You can also put other value for the port ins here, because then you are able to create more environments on the separate ports. What is important, you should check that ports after adding that value won't match ports of other services that could listen on your device, because in that case it will fail. Next, you have also the force_install variable here. So it's by default it equals 0, and if you want to force the new configuration, even if the old configuration is in place, you should put 1 here. Next, you have some basic variables. The base admin variable is important for the Synology NAS devices. It's the user, the basic administrator of the NAS device. And for other configuration, for example, for installation under Linux, you can just remove the whole value and it can be the blank, so empty value. Next, you have Docker CFG main. So it's the main path for the directory, inside which you will have all container configuration files. So for Synology you have the volume 1 or any other volume. If you have more volumes, you should put the actual volume here and the name of the share under the volume. So I have the volume 1 at my virtual DSM and the base share. And for the other systems, so on Linux you can just change it to /base, and the base directory should have permissions like 755. So any user is able to enter that directory. It's important because other way it won't work. Or you can also use the extended ACLs if you like, but a more simple solution is just put 755 here, and the permissions will be restricted on the child directories in that case. Next, you have the Docker group for all container users. So every user for separate container will be member of that group. Also pay attention that every group name, every username here has that prefix, so it's name of the environment. So in that case we will have a PRD here because we are using enview here, and enview equals env plus underscore in that case. Or if we don't want to use any prefix, if it's empty, it will just be also empty. You can see it here. Next we have the basic domain. So I have that DNS name configured, and it points to my virtual DSM. I also use DNS mask service on my router. So there I've added that domain definition. You can also configure it other way, and also you can put it even IP address here, but more sophisticated solution is to put a DNS name here. And also you have domain underscore ex, so it's external domain. It's important, I will show you it later. It's important if you want to get access to that Apache from outside your LAN network, and you have, for example, different domain. If it's the same domain, you should put the same domain here as for the domain variable, and if it's other domain, you should put other domain here, because you can have some dynamic DNS service with other domain, for example, and ports forwarded on your router, so it can vary from usual LAN domain configured on your internal DNS masks or other DNS server like Bind if you are using Bind inside your LAN network. Next you have LAN underscore net. Here you should put subnets which should be able to get access to that Apache server. So I have my LAN subnet here. Also pay attention, it's always the subnet slash, and here you have mask in Citron notation. And if you want to add more subnets, you should separate it by pipe. And if you want just one subnet, you should just put one subnet here with Citr, of course. The second subnet in my case is for VPN, but you can have also more subnets in your LAN network. And next we have NAS underscore IP. So it's IP address of my virtual DSM. So for you, it will be also, in case of Linux installation, the IP address of your Linux server or the virtual machine. You should put it here. Next, we have some specific options for containers. Also pay attention that I have all containers variables here. So even containers I will show you in the future. It is important because in the scripts for configuring Apache, the other services will be configured, so the most important stuff are the ports for other services. So it should be put here, and also I will show you it later. Those scripts are prepared that way. You can add new configuration, you can rerun those scripts. It will leave the old configuration also. So I will be able to extend that configuration and scripts in the future videos easily. And you will also be able to follow that new scripts and just extend your configuration also. So for today's video, the important part is configuration for Apache and MySQL. So let's take a look. For every container we have that variable here, Apache underscore user, MySQL underscore user, and it's the user that will be used for that specific container. Also, if you don't want to use some container, you can just put hash before the username. So the scripts will check it and won't configure that particular user for you. We will take a look at it later also. And for Apache, you have also the basic out user and password, so you can configure it. It's important for getting access from outside your LAN network, or you can make some slight modifications and force the authentication also inside your LAN network. Also, if you want to put some subnet here for your network segment here, it will force the basic out from those IP addresses. So for example, if I wouldn't put VPN subnet here, I would be able to get access from my LAN network without authentication, and from my VPN I would get pop-up when I would enter Apache site to authenticate. And next we have configuration for ports, also for password for PHP myadmin PMA. So it's the user inside MySQL for the internal tables used by phpMyAdmin. You can also change it, of course. And important option here, the port for the supervisor D. And because Apache is the container which needs to use the same network as Docker hosts, it's important to have different ports if you are using different environments and set of containers. So it won't overlap, because in that way tapping one Apache would cause to tap also the other Apache in different environments. Next, you have also MySQL user, same as for the Apache, and MySQL root password here, and MySQL port also. Next options are for the roundcube, and in that case for the roundcube database. So it's database name, user and password used to connect to that database, and also the script will configure it in MySQL when it's run. Next settings are for the next containers. We will cover it in the next videos. And also the last part of that configuration file, which is important, we are checking again that a variable, if we are using it on the Synology or not Synology. So on Synology, for users group, we are using users. It has 100 git, and for the other configurations like Linux, we are using just the Docker group as the users group. And at the end, we are also getting git of that group. Okay, let's take a look also at the helper file, because it's included in all other scripts also. In that file, you have the helper function for settings permissions at Synology, and also it will check if that permissions had been already set, because on the Synology, when you use the SynoACL tool add option, you are able to add the same permissions many times. So to avoid the mess, we should check first if it hadn't been added yet. Also, we have the function wait docker log, so we can wait for the Docker container and look for some text inside those logs here. And also we have some timeout like here. So it's 2 seconds multiply 200, so it's 400 seconds max. And if it's not ready within that time, it will just skip that part, because it means it failed. Or you should extend that timeout if you have, for example, slow storage, so it can take a longer time than to configure those containers. And also the last function is container exists. So it's the function for checking if the container exists. So when we have those two files that are included covered, we can see also the basic script. So it's create_env.sh. So first, as you can see, we are running users CFG script, and then scripts for the setup for every container in proper order. Of course, you don't have for now those other scripts, so we will just have first two scripts. We will get just the error that don't have those files, and that is fine. You can also comment it for now, or later also you can comment here the containers you don't want to use, of course. And let's take a look for the first script, users_cfg.sh. You have that script for configuring users. So you have some variable with all users, and it works like that. If you, for example, want to add any other container here, you should put the username here, colon, name of the directory. Inside we have the configuration for the Docker, and the same pattern for each user. So it's separated by pipe also. And next we are just checking if it's running under Synology. In that case, we are using some Synology tools for adding users, for adding groups, and set proper permissions. So it's similar to extended ACLs under Linux. And for the Linux, we are just using basic ACLs, so it's simple. You can also modify it to use extended ACLs if you want. Also, if you will take a look closer, you will see that we are checking if the group exists. So we are creating it only if it doesn't exist, or we have the force install flag set to 1. And also in normal use, we are also checking the configuration path. So if it's empty, only in that case we will configure the group. And also the same for the users. We have the separator for pipe for the loop. Here we are looping in new users, and we are extracting the username and the user directory here. And we are also checking if user exists. If the user is empty, so it's commented in the configuration file, it will be empty here, so it don't exist, and we don't want it also to be created. And in the other cases, we are checking if the user exists and won't let the user to be created again. Of course, if it's the situation we have the force install, it will force it to be created. And as you can see, we are creating users here and also configuring the directory with the configuration. And at the end, we are also adding those users, and that part is only for Synology, to the proper group, because for Synology, if we want to alter the group, we should state all members for that. So it's that part. And for the other configurations, you can just iterate and add users to the group while the user is created, because you are putting it here when you are creating a user. And next, we should take a look at those scripts for creating the containers. So first, let's take a look at MySQL. It's simpler. So we are including configuration and the helper functions here, and we are also getting UID of the user for MySQL container, and we are checking if we have force install variable set to 1, because if it's set, we are removing the whole configuration, and we are copying the configuration from the template. So in MySQL underscore template or any other container name underscore template, you have the template files for the basic configuration, initial configurations, and those templates are changed later, usually by using a set command and changing some tags. I use always tags like that. It's a percentage sign, name of the tag, and percentage sign at the end. We are also changing owner and group of those directories, so in that case of the MariaDB directory. And also we are changing the user ID and group ID here. And next we have that part. I use it in every container script, so I check if the force install is set to 1 as always, and also I check if container exists, and if that case, if it exists and you want to clean it, it's just being stopped and removed in that part. And next we are also checking if it exists. So if the container doesn't exist, we are creating new one and starting. In the other case, we are just using the restart. So the restart is useful for the containers. We can just make some slight changes in the configuration, either template on the configuration file, and we want to just apply the new configuration, so it will be restarted in that case. And in the case we are doing the initial run, it should create the container and then start it. So if you take a look at the Docker create, you can see that we are always setting the hostname of the container to the environment plus the container name, and also we are passing the needed volumes here, which will be mounted inside that container. So it's also true for other containers, and we are also putting the port. So inside the container it's always the standard MySQL port, so it's 306, and we are attaching port from our configuration here to the internal one. Also we are passing some extra variables like path and also the important variable like MySQL _root _password and also the container name. Then we are using that function I've already mentioned, wait docker log. So we are waiting for the MySQL container to be fully operational, and then we are also checking in the loop if we are able to run some SQL commands. So for example, select one should be able to run, and if it's able to run, we are sure that the container is configured. Maybe first I will show you also that template directory. So you have just the var directory here. So it's the directory for the databases. It's mounted because you want the databases to be persistent. So even if you destroy the container, databases should be untouched. So it's here, and also in the etc you have passwd file and group file. So inside those files you have those tags I've mentioned, and those tags are changed by set command during execution of the configuration script. And also we can take a look at the Apache script. Apache container is longer, as you can see, because we need to configure more in that case. So first we have that variable for generating certificate, and its domain here because it will go while generating certificate as the common name. So it's the most important field while generating certificate. Any other fields are optional. You can put anything you want there, but that field should match the domain, the host name, and also the name in the DNS. So it's important to remember that. Next you have PHP myadmin cookie. So it's generated from def urandom. So it will have 32 signs, as you can see, small letters and digits. Roundcube desk key also generated, but it's shorter, and also it can have uppercase letters, as you can see here. We are getting UID of the users as usual, and also you can see that whole part is similar to the MySQL script for configuring containers, and also you have that additional check here. So we are checking if we have anything in the Apache configuration directory. So if it's empty, or if we have the first underscore install variable set to 1, we are setting the first underscore install variable to the 0. So if we have the Apache directory empty, then we have the first underscore install variable set to 1. So it means it's the initial first time configuration. And in the other case, we are setting it to 0. So we will get those things installed only if the force install variable is set to 1. What we are configuring here, we are copy all template files to the container configuration directory. We are generating some SSL certificates here and keys also in that part. We are also changing some variables, some tags in proper files. So it means it will put the domain here from the config, the ports values also, the user ID, group ID also. It will also configure the domains in the index files, and also the other variables. For other services also it will configure the port values. Also it will configure the roundcube, and as you can see also the PHP myadmin, and also have that additional part. So it will configure those subnets for us, so it will match properly, and you won't need basic out for those subnets. And also next it will configure the MySQL for us. So it will create the phpMyAdmin user, also create tables for the phpMyAdmin. Also it will create the RAMcube user and RAMcube database, and then we are also checking same like for MySQL if we want the force installed to be done. So either it's force install or the container doesn't exist, and if it exists or it's force installed, we will just use the docker stop and docker remove. So in case you don't have the force install set to 1, it just won't charge the current container. And next we are checking if the container exists. If it's initial setup or the force install triggered the deletion of the container, we will just create the new one and then start the container. In the other case we are using the restart option here. And during creation we have, I would say, everything like for the MySQL container. So the volumes here, you can also see the port option here, but it's actually not needed because we are using that network host option. So it will use the same network as the host with the Docker service. And also we are passing, same like for the MySQL, some additional environment variables. So also path, and also we are passing the name of the container and the same for the hostname. Those were the scripts for creating the containers, and we have one more script for cleaning the whole environment. How it works? It checks in the loop for all containers. So also if you want to add the new container to the configuration file, and you also create the script for configuring it like docker underscore name of the container.sh, you should also put it here, and then we are checking if that container exists. So only for containers that were configured, we are trigger docker stop and docker remove. We are also checking some additional stuff here. It will be important for the other containers I will show you in the next videos. And also we are checking for some additional scheduled tasks for the Synology here, and for the other configuration, so in case it's ordinary Linux configuration, we are just using the same, but we are checking cron jobs. We also deleting users and the group here, and we are removing also the whole directory with the configuration. So you should remember to not trigger that script by mistake. Now I will also take a look at the Apache template. In Apache template you have that etc apache 2, and you have ports.conf file. It's standard file for the Apache to configure ports, and as you can see we are configuring ports here, so it's tagged. If you want to add some additional service, it's especially important for the SSL proxy, you should put one more service here if you would like with proper tag. And also we have other files, and you can see that we have also ht passwd, and here we will have generated our file for the basic out when we will start it. So it's just template, so it's empty. And also you have some configurations, so it's sites available, because in that case inside sites dash enabled we have just links for files inside that directory, so it's the same. So we have default configuration here, and as you can see we have the tag for the LAN here to be changed by the configuration script later. We have domain here, also the port. We have also the same for the SSL, so it's the standard configuration. But also you should take a look here. We have that rewrite mode used. So in case we are accessing Apache outside our LAN network, so outside those segments specified in the configuration file, we are redirecting for other index file also. We can see it here. So if we will enter the var www directory, we have 3 subdirectories. So it's main, and we have index.html file here. So it's the index file for the HTTP protocol and inside the LAN. So as you can see, it uses the ordinary domain here. We have also the HTTPS directory and index file. So it's the same internal domain, but you have other ports specified here. So it's for HTTPS. It should redirect you to same services like the previous file, but SSL version. Of course, you can modify those links yourself also. And we have main s_external also. And in that case, we are using domain_ex tag here. So it will redirect you to the external domain. So that is why we have that rewrite mode configured. So you are using the proper index file automatically. We will see it also later. I will try to remove or change my LAN subnet in the configuration file to trigger proper behavior, so you will see how it works. Also, we have here some iPrefix files. So those files are prepared to be included by other files. So we have the file with basic out here. So it's a file for configuring basic authentication. And also we have same file but for the proxy SSL. So it's also pre-configured. And next we have zip files for the actual services. So phpMyAdmin, we are including basic out here, of course. And for the other services also, we have the configuration for the Roundcube, also simple configuration. And we have that configuration for the proxy SSL. So it's more complex, but it's working the same for every service. So as you can see, we are putting the HTTPS port here, and we are passing it to the HTTP port of that service. You can also add other services here also, so it should go also to the ports.conf file in that case. So you should add the service there and also here to be able to use it properly. And in the etc we have also the configuration for the PHP. So we are using PHP 7 here, and we have that Apache 2 subdirectory and php.ini file, and we can easily see what has been added. Okay, so we will use those two egrep's for that and the last command to see it, and you should pay attention to that variable date time zone. So you should also probably modify it for your time zone here, and for the other variables you can also configure the variables you want, like memory limit or the limits for the files that could be uploaded. If you want to add other services, other site for the Apache, you can also reconfigure it. Of course, it's just for PHP in that case. And we can also take a look at the template, but the var www directory and those two subdirectories like phpMyAdmin. So we have the config ins PHP file here. So in that file we have the basic options. We are changing it with set. So here you have the basic configuration to be able to connect to the MySQL. And we have also the same configuration, the same principles for the Roundcube. So in that case it's that file. And you can see that we are also directing it to the MySQL server with the proper database name and credentials, and we are also pointing it to the postfix here. We don't have postfix configured yet, but it is prepared for the future use. So now it's the time to fire the configuration script, and we will see how it works. We have it configured, but it won't work yet. We can also relog into virtual DSM. It won't work yet, as you can see, because it will take a while to be configured. It's running, as you can see here, those two containers, but we will see in the logs that there are still packages that have to be installed inside, so we will have to wait for it. In the meantime, I will show you at my virtual DSM control panel. For the Linux, you can just take a look from the console at the setup. I will also show you it next. Here we have two new users and the new group. As you can see, inside that group we have those two users, and also we have that structure for the configuration files here, and you can see the permissions here. We have proper permissions, so for the group and administrators, and inside we have permissions for container user and the administrators. So it's separated. It means that MariaDB user is not able to put anything inside the Apache directory and vice versa, so it's secured. So as you can see, it started. We can switch to the tab and refresh it. Of course, we need to add a self-signed certificate, so it's running. And we can also check inside that container that we have that script. Also it's in the template, so you have that rc.local script here, and also the same script it's here in the Apache Template etc. But here of course you will have some tags, and here it is already being replaced. So you have that file for initial configuration. If it's being configured the first time, it will check if we have all those packages for the PHP, the additional packages, and also some basic tools like bzip2 and zip, and it will install it. It's here, because if we will use on Debian distribution the dpkg with get selections option, we will have all packages that we have present on the system, and we can also look for the install part, and we can just count if the number of installed packages are equal to that what we like. So in that case it's 4. It's either 4, or in other cases we need to just install those packages. And also for the supervisor we have to alter that standard file, because we can have more environments and other ports. It's done here. Okay, so I will leave that container for now, and I will also show you that we have, for example, those index page here pre-configured, and as you can see we have links and the proper port, as you can see below, and that is also true for the HTTPS. So as you can see, also the proper port. So for example, we can click phpMyAdmin and log into MySQL, and as you can see we have those basic database for Roundcube and for phpMyAdmin pre-configured, so it's working. And also for the Roundcube we should use the HTTPS, so we can open it here. Of course it won't work because it's not able to connect to the postfix yet. And now I will show you what would happen if we would connect from the external network to it. For that, I need to reconfigure the subnet in the configuration file. I'm not at the VPN right now, so I can configure the basic LAN subnet, for example, to point to the other subnet that I don't use. And I just use the Docker Apache configuration script once again. It will reconfigure it. Of course, it will recreate the certificates also, but other than that, we will just have the container restarted and it should work. So I will also remove that certificate, that's old certificate, because it's no longer needed. And I will also refresh the main HTTP service. So as you can see, it's forbidden, because from outside the LAN network it shouldn't be used because it's not secured. So we can't use the ordinary HTTP outside the LAN network, of course without VPN. And for the SSL version, we can just also refresh it. I will add new certificate and it wants the basic out here. So it's masters of the code, master 1234, and as you can see, which is important, it redirected us to the external version, as you can see here, automatically. And you have new set of links here from the -s_external directory in the var www directory at the Apache. So it works and it's really convenient. So now, when we have that configuration done, I will show you also the clean script. So we will just remove the whole environment for now. I will fire it up and it will clean that environment for us. As you can see also here, we don't have those users anymore and we don't have that directory. And we can also one more time use the create environment script. Also pay attention that we have here some more users, but those users won't be created because it checks that the username is hashed in the configuration file. So in that case it is, so it won't create it. Okay, so it's again configured, and that time I will show you from the console that we have that base directory, and inside we have the structure like that. So in case of the Linux configuration, you can easily check it here. Just remember to have the proper permissions on that base directory. Also, you should either configure or disable the firewall, and also disable the SE Linux, or you can also modify those scripts. So those scripts can be used with SE Linux. It's not that complex, but I just haven't covered it. So that's it for that video. Once again, remember to subscribe my channel, check links below my video. Thank you for watching. Bye.